Thursday. Bob sat down at the table and looked at his bottle of Miller Lite. He only bought a six-pack because if something went wrong in the next few minutes, he didn't want to have enough beer to get drunk. When he heard the music stop upstairs, he realized that his wife was almost finished with her preparations. He usually worked late on Thursdays because his wife had a bachelorette party with her friends that day. His parents took their daughter, Casey, with them, and his wife went out drinking with her employees. He stayed late doing paperwork for the week so he could leave early on Friday and spend more time with his family. In fact, everything was perfectly planned. He had a window in his busy schedule. His parents had time to spoil their 5-year-old granddaughter, and his wife had some personal time to relax and communicate with her friends. At least that's what he thought. Hearing her upstairs heading to the bathroom reminded him of the lunch he and Vicky had last Tuesday. I need to go to the store more often, he thought, or at least see if these sandwiches can be delivered because they are amazing. He sat down so that he could watch the door and soon saw a familiar figure step into the restaurant. He noticed that she was looking around, so he stood up and waved. She saw him and walked in his direction. At the age of 31, Vicky was the oldest girlfriend his wife had dated. He liked her the most, and was also the only one of them who was married. She knew how to calm everyone down without being the knockout doormat in the group. He had to admit that she looked very good with her dark, wavy hair and white complexion. She didn't have any breasts to speak of, but she did have a really beautiful face and legs from ear to ear. Her husband, Ron, believed that she was a gift from heaven, and the feeling was mutual. The men glanced at her as she pulled back her chair and sat down opposite him. "Thanks for meeting with me, Bob. I know how busy you are at work, and this time cannot be easy," she said, looking intently at his face. No problem, Vicky," Bob replied. "Although I have to tell you I feel a little uncomfortable meeting you here without Sharon. I don't think it's possible to dine with pretty ladies I'm not married to. But you said it's about Sharon, so I'm paying attention. I assume you want to surprise her for her birthday next month?" He didn't expect to see the sad look on her face when he mentioned having lunch with her. He was also surprised to see her face fall even further when he mentioned Sharon's birthday. "What's happened?" "Bob, I know you and Sharon love each other, and I've seen you enough together to know that you guys have something special together. So I came to you only because of this. This could end up ruining our friendship, but if you can save your marriage, I'll do anything. There's no easy way to say it, but Sharon has been dating someone for 2 months now." Bob was shocked. This must be a joke. It was a bad joke, and he told Vicky how much. "I'm very sorry, Bob, but this is not a joke. About 3 months ago, after you took on this project you're working on, Sharon became depressed. She has become irritable at work, and when we leave, she is even more bored than usual. After a few martinis, we were able to get it out of her that she missed you and felt abandoned. She also started talking about how she felt like you both were just a middle-aged married couple letting life pass you by." At that moment, the waiter came up to take Vicky's order. She ordered the Cobb salad along with lemon iced tea. Bob's thoughts were still racing about his wife being secretive. During the 8 years they were together, he could bet his wife would tell him if she felt unhappy. He thought they were always honest about their feelings, even when they knew the other didn't agree on something. He looked at Vicky and asked a question that he needed an immediate answer to. "Did she have sex with him?" he whispered. "No, at least as far as I know, and I think I can say with confidence. Believe it or not, your wife is a pretty open person. That's why I'm shocked by the way she behaves. Bob, you should know this. Every woman I've talked to says the same thing. I imagine you guys almost always complain about being overwhelmed by everyday life. Or what terms do you use? When she brought it up, we all sympathized with her and said the same thing, that she was one hell of a sexy young woman and you should pay more attention to her. Unfortunately, my sister was there that night." "What does your sister have to do with it?" Bob asked, suppressing some anger. "Honestly, my sister is a slut," Vicky replied. The waiter who brought her tea raised an eyebrow at her comment. Vicky took a sip and continued, "My parents were pathological cheaters. I have no idea which one of them cheated first, but they always wanted revenge on the other. When I was 17, I asked them why they were suffering living together, and they looked at me as if I were from another planet. They said they loved each other, and that's all that mattered. This affected my sister and me in different ways. I realized that cheating is the best way to ruin a happy relationship, and my sister thought that cheating is acceptable as long as you love each other. I love my sister, but she is such an idiot. Anyway, back to the story. My sister Jerry said that if she doesn't have romance at home, maybe she should try to find it somewhere else. I told Gary she was wrong, but Hannah and Gail started talking about how to find a better boyfriend and how to keep things a secret. I think that for these two it was purely an academic interest, especially since they are not married. At the time, Sharon said she would never go behind your back, but I think my idiot sister planted the seed in your wife's head. Why do you think so? Asked Bob. Now that he wasn't sure she wasn't sleeping around, he began to process more information. None of this was good to hear, but he always believed that knowledge was power. Because the next week Luke Jonas and his team came to the Red Horse Bar where we were drinking. Sharon says she didn't invite him, but she mentioned to him that we were going to try a group dance that night. It's actually always fun when more people try something new, and that would be great if it weren't for Luke. Now he had a name. Knowledge is power. Tell me about that shit, Luke, Bob growled. Vicky smiled slightly at Bob's tone of voice and continued. Luke Jonas is a famous womanizer. He strikes after every woman, and anyone who shows even the slightest interest in him turns out to be a victim of his charm. He doesn't care if she's married or even if she looks particularly good. He just likes hunting. Your wife amazed him from the very beginning, and until that night, he didn't fall for her. Now he's after your wife, and she's running away instead of standing up and stopping him. It's no secret that if Luke is charged with sexual harassment again, he's fired. She can put an end to his tackles. But no. In fact, they've been regular neighbors in the cafeteria for the last couple of months, whispering and giggling. I tried to talk to her about it, but she just gets angry and claims that they are just friends, and that Luke listens to her and understands her problems. I asked her if she would behave the same way if you were sitting at the table, and she had the decency to blush. Then she got angry and said something about you not even noticing. After that, I backed down and decided to look after her. They seemed to have calmed down at work, and I thought everything had gone as usual, until that incident 3 weeks ago. At that moment, Vicky's order arrived, and she began to eat, looking at Bob's reaction. Bob drank his lemonade for a long time, but did not feel the taste at all. There was a coldness in his chest, and his eyes could not concentrate. He wondered how she could think that he would care that she was flirting with another man. He knew that he was never overly jealous, but that was because he loved and trusted his wife. As for not noticing her, he wondered if he had become too distant from her with this work project. There's a huge reward waiting for him in the end, but maybe he's gone too far. I wonder what happened 3 weeks ago. Did he really want to know? For the next 5 minutes or so, they ate in silence while he tried to process what she had told him. No doubt he was angry. She had no reason to be so closely involved with another man, but he could almost see her logic. If he had been more attentive, then perhaps none of this would have happened. Besides, by not telling him that she was being so flirtatious with that idiot, she was actually lying to him. Of course, it was a lie by omission. But for now, he could ignore her behavior and work to fix it. He will talk to her and tell her about her story. If she's honest and agrees to stay out of the asshole, they can move on. So far, he hasn't seen any lasting damage, unless, of course, something happened within the last 3 weeks. So tell me what happened 3 weeks ago. How bad was it? He's back on some solid mental footing. He felt his feet beneath him. He could work with it. She looked at him with sympathy. This is where it gets bad, Bob. 3 weeks ago, we found ourselves at the Red Horse Bar again to dance. Luke and his boys showed up, and we all danced together and had a good time. Sharon had been drinking a little more than usual. Luke had been buying her drinks all evening, and she was getting quite drunk. I went to the restroom with her, and she was more out of it than I thought. When she came out of the toilet, she held the panties in her hand and put them in her purse. I asked her what it was, and she said she wanted to feel free. Well, she was almost drunk, so I blamed it on the alcohol and helped her back to our table. I started trying to get Hannah and Gail to help take Sharon to my house so she wouldn't come home too drunk when I noticed that Sharon and Luke were bumping into each other and were simulating sex on the dance floor. The group dancing ended, and the rest of the evening was just a jukebox. I saw panties in her hand, and at the end of the song, she put them in Luke's pocket. Unfortunately, everyone else saw it too. Whistles were heard from all over the bar, and Luke smiled like a Cheshire cat. Then he took it and gave her a deep kiss. One of his friends was holding a mobile phone. I so wanted her to stop him or something, but she just went with it. "Oh, Bob, I'm so sorry." She stopped when she saw his reaction. His jaw literally dropped open. He had to leave here. "Excuse me, I'll just be a second. Toilet," he stuttered as he stood up and walked away. He went inside and locked the door behind him. He splashed some water on his face and grabbed the sink with all his strength. He remembered the night she was talking about. Sharon usually got home around 11:30, but when she walked in that night, it was almost 2:30. Before this, Vicky called and said that she would be staying with her for a while because she had drunk too much. She'll call a taxi for Sharon when she sobers up a little. This had happened several times before, and Bob was always relieved that Vicky and the girls were so responsible for making sure she didn't get a DUI citation. He always thought that being a little drunk was part of the fun of going out and relaxing. To be honest, he wasn't angry about it. He also remembered what happened that night when she returned home. He remembered waking up to the warm feeling of Sharon's lips. The sex they had that night was mind-blowing. They gave each other a lot of pleasure that night, and there was something unusual in her behavior. He returned his thoughts to the present. He was now shaking with rage, feeling that she was turned on by her boyfriend and had come home to fight him. Damn, he thought. What if she was thinking about him while I was trying to make her climax? He splashed more water on his face, dried himself, and went outside. When he sat down, he saw the sympathy on Vicky's face, but did not know how to respond. His sandwich remained forgotten on the table. "What else do I need to know, Vicky?" he asked. "Honestly, Bob, that's pretty much it." The last couple of bachelorette parties were held at Hannah's house with wine and a lingerie show. At work, Sharon acts very cold towards Luke, although he does pursue her. I thought it was all over, but just yesterday I saw them talking. They stopped talking until I got around the corner, so I have no idea what they're up to, but I'm done with it. I thought you needed to know, and maybe you could do something since she doesn't listen to her friends anymore. Then the waiter came up bringing our bill. Bob grabbed it before Vicky could touch it and started fishing for his credit card. "I want to see these guys interact and maybe scare them right away," he said. "Sharon said you girls are going to the Red Horse Bar this week. So, this Thursday when you go there, I'm going to show up and watch them in the hall." He suddenly stopped, noticing the fearful look on his face. On Vicky's face. "What did I say wrong?" he asked. "Bob, Hannah has a doctor's appointment early Friday morning, and Gail is going to visit her brother in Florida. If Sharon goes somewhere on Thursday, it won't be with us." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "I'm so sorry, darling," she said sadly. "I know it's better not to ask if you're okay, but here's my home phone number. Call any time to talk to Ron or me." Her husband was a marriage counselor by profession, so talking with him might be helpful. "Thank you for telling me, Vicky. I know this must be difficult for you, but I really think you are a good person and a good friend. I don't know what will happen next, but I know what is happening now, and I can take some actions. Thanks again." Thanking her, he stood up, signed the credit card bill, and left. Wednesday today, there was a breakthrough in the project Bob was working on. They were able to secure a supply of finished parts from a startup company in Harrisburg. This cut setup time by 2 months, which still gave them at least a week's supply, even with unstable transport logistics. 2 more phone calls, and this plan will be completed 2 months in advance and save millions for the military. The cash bonus will also be huge, as Bob expected, and the recognition that the project will bring to his name will be significant. He should be as happy as a cat who has eaten too much sour cream. Instead, he thought about how much he didn't want to go home and do what he thought he should. He decided to see what he could find out about the matter himself. He didn't have access to her work email, but he didn't think they were communicating via it because it was controlled by HR. He logged into her Yahoo email account and found nothing. However, she could have created a separate account, but he had no way of knowing until it got to their home computer. Part of the problem was that Bob knew he wasn't very tech-savvy. The idea of buying security cameras or outfitting his home with voice-activated microphones sounded cool in theory, but he already had a plan to counter it. All he wanted was to get as much information as possible to know how far he would have to go to try to save or destroy his marriage. Sharon had already taken their daughter Casey away from his parents and scammed him into delivering Chinese food. When he sent her a message asking what she wanted, she replied, "After 10 years together and 8 of them married, you should know by now that I love you, baby." He could not resist being caustic in his answer. "I just wanted to make sure you were still happy with the situation." His phone immediately rang again. "You are right. Bring me an extra roll." Chateau. If it weren't for yesterday's bomb, he would have been so glad to get home an hour earlier and just spend time with his wife and child. However, looking at the clock, I reminded myself that before the start of the project, this time would have been counted 2 hours later. He also realized that he hadn't been home with his family this early on Friday since it all started. Add to that the fatigue and stress. Even when he was home, it was easy to see how Sharon could feel neglected. But that didn't give her any right to do what she did. As he walked through the front door, he saw his wife reach for a bottle of wine. He stood and simply admired her forms. At 31, she was a woman in the prime of her life. With her height of 5 meters, she had enough curve as to look appetizing. He had a great view of her tight ass, visible even through the baggy sweatpants she was wearing. Her hair was pulled back into a ponytail, and when she turned around and gave him a 1,000,000-watt smile, he couldn't help but think how damn lucky he was to be with her. Then he remembered. "I'm so glad you're home, baby. How's work?" She came up to kiss him on the lips. "Pretty good. We've had a big breakthrough on some supplies, so we'll probably get it done at least a month ahead of schedule. Baby, I know I was away from home a lot with this project. I also know that it sucks that I can't talk to you about the details because the project is classified. I just want you to know that you and Casey are the most important thing in my life, and I will do everything in my power to protect us as long as I can," he said, looking into her eyes. Did he see a flash of regret or guilt, or was he just looking for something? It was one of those days when he cursed the fact that he couldn't read people. He was often called the shooter. He tended to speak simply and directly and expected others to do the same. He knew that he might initially come across as rude, but when people saw that he meant business and was honest, they really liked him. This technique had worked for him for 34 years, and he saw very little reason to change. Until now. "Oh dear," she replied. "We both love you to death and understand. I admit, I wish there were more of you in the family, but I understand that this is only temporary. However, I am very pleased to hear that you acknowledge the fact itself." She almost looked like she had tears in her eyes. Was she really a good actress? "So, can you tell me what the earlier completion of the project means for you?" she asked, starting to empty containers of food from her bag. "Well, firstly, this means a very significant bonus to your salary. I don't know how much until the project gets the green light, but it's not a penny. Plus, the fact that we did our first government project and so damn well should bring more work to the company. As the leader of the project, some bounty hunters at the government level will want to get me. The bosses know this, so I can get some pretty good goodies out of them. Given that everything goes well, this should work out." As he spoke, he tried to eat his sweet and sour pork with chopsticks, but it always took too long, so he grabbed a fork. "Didn't I already tell you all this?" he asked as he worked on a piece of pork. "Not that I remember, baby," she replied. "All I remember is that you said you were going to sign a big contract that you couldn't talk about, but it was worth it. And after that, it seems like we haven't talked much since then." She looked a little sad, but then she perked up. "However, It looks like my husband will be back soon. He looked at her. Time to go fishing. So what bar are you ladies going to tomorrow night? Shouldn't I stop by after work and make sure you're all well enough to ride your cars home? He asked, in what he hoped was a light tone. Oh, actually, we decided to visit the Red Horse Bar to dance in a group. But I think we'll be done before you leave work. She looked at her orange chicken as she said this. His heart sank. At this point, Casey finished her egg roll and asked him to read her stories. He picked up his plate and rinsed it in the sink, then picked up his daughter and carried her into the living room. For the next hour, he fussed over his child, reading story after story until she fell asleep. Snoring came from the sofa, and he saw his beautiful wife curled up in a ball, her own book dropped into her lap. He picked up his daughter and carried her upstairs to her bedroom. He laid her down in her bed and tucked in the blanket. His eyes began to fill with tears as he thought about what the next day would bring. He wanted her to remember those good nights with her mother and father, and not those harsh nights that were visible on the horizon. Wiping his tears, he walked down the stairs to the sofa where his wife was sleeping. He kissed her softly on the lips and pulled the blanket over her so she wouldn't catch a cold. Then he went to look for her phone. He found it, plugged into a wall socket, lying on the nightstand in their room. He swiped up, left, and right to unlock it, and began scrolling through her text messages. And it didn't take much time to find what I was looking for. Scrolling back, he saw that they had started about 3 months ago. Him. Hey, beautiful. It was fun seeing you girls dancing last night. She. Same thing. Bob works late on Thursdays and the in-laws keep an eye on the backbreaker, so we were able to spend time with the girls. Him. Your hubby's a good guy, allowing you to go out from time to time. She. Yes, he's great. Over the next few weeks, all the text messages were fairly harmless. And then this exchange. She. Today, Vicky lectured me about our lunch breaks. I was angry, but she noticed everything exactly. I don't want people to misunderstand us. Him. It's just harmless talk. We're not doing anything wrong. Her. She asked if Bob would like the way we were acting, which made me think we might be sending the wrong signals. Besides, I shouldn't share all my problems with another guy. I'll try to talk to Bob. Him. I understand. But if you can't get his attention, you know where to find me. I'll even invite you to dinner if necessary, just as friends. Bob didn't remember her trying to talk to him about anything, but it could also have been around the time he learned they needed food-grade stainless steel for the project. He spent several days trying to find a supplier who could produce the required quantity. During this time, a bomb could probably have been dropped on him, and he would not have noticed it. Until now, all the text messages from her had been harmless, he believed. It was very obvious that the asshole was hitting on her. How could she not see this? He scrolled down to see the next set of text messages. She. You have to return them today. Him. What are you talking about? She. You know damn well. My girlfriends are so mad at me right now, and I don't blame them. If Bob finds out that I acted like some kind of slut, he might leave me. Him. So you don't want me to show him the video? She. What video? No one at work can't see this. Him. Sam was there and he took a video on his phone. I'll make sure he removes it, although you owe me. She. Okay, I can't lose Bob. Not after last night. Him. What happened last night? She. It's really none of your business. Him. Was he angry that you came home late and got drunk? She. Very funny. Hell no. Let's just say that something happened that turned the world upside down and leave everything as it is. Him. So, some dirty dance with me made you work all your life for your husband? He should be grateful to me. She. You're an asshole. Last night was unbeatable, and it was because Bob and I love each other. Now give me back my panties and make sure this damn video is erased. She. Shit. It sounded like I was some kind of slut. Bob deserves better than me. Him. No, he is lucky to have you. He was out to keep an eye on you, wasn't he? I'm sure he's a great guy, but you go out alone a lot. She. I don't need anyone to look after me. Just be the friend you claim to be and take care of what I asked, please. Him. Sorry. Of course I'll help you. And then I'll let you invite me to dinner. Her. Just make sure no one sees this video and I'll do whatever you want. Nothing further until last Monday. Him, I heard that the bachelorette party is canceled. How about dinner with me? She, not a good idea. Sorry. Him, come on, your husband will be at work and the girls left you alone. One evening with a friend and we can chat about everything as we used to in the cafeteria. Besides, you owe me. She, okay, I'll meet you at the Red Horse at 8. He, no. Meet me at TGIF, which is located at the Sheraton Hotel. They have great drinks, and I don't want to tear my nose up at drunk idiots. If we drink too much, I'll rent a room. She, okay, but it will just be a couple of friends' dinner. And I am indebted to you for the fact that the video never came out. God, it's bad enough that people at work have heard about this. Him, don't worry about it. I saw Sam delete the video, and soon someone else will do something scandalous and you'll be fine. See you at 8. That's what it was. Probably the end of the marriage. How many times have you seen your wife going on a date with another man at a hotel restaurant bar? How can this go well? How could she think sex wasn't involved? He closed the text messages and plugged his phone back into the charger. Then he undressed and crawled into bed, alone. Sleep did not come for a long time. Thursday. She walked down the stairs in her little black dress that she always wore when they went out with each other. She looked great. She stopped at the foot of the stairs and saw him sitting at the table. Bob, I didn't expect you to come home so early today, baby. She turned slightly pale. We need to talk, Sharon, he said, with almost no emotion in his voice. This is probably the most important conversation we will ever have. Please have a seat. She sat up, looking scared, and tried to take his hand as usual, but he pulled it away. I know there won't be a bachelorette party today. I know you're dating Luke Jonas behind my back, he began. Bob, please let me explain. But he suddenly cut off, slamming his fist on the table. Damn it, Sharon, listen to me, he shouted. You can't speak until I have said my part. She shrank and began to cry. He looked at her dispassionately and continued. Like I said, I know you made out with that shit. Like at lunch. I know you danced with him at the Red Horse bar. I know you took off your panties and gave them to him after some sexy thrusting and grinding on the dance floor. I know the only reason you jumped on me 3 weeks ago was because you were all excited about him. I also know that tonight you are going on a date with him to a restaurant in the hotel where your boyfriend has already made a reservation. I just don't know if you've already slept with him. And I don't know what could stop you if you haven't already. He paused, trying to get his anger under control. Sharon, you lied to me by default about Luke. You lied to me about your naughty pantyless dance. And you lied to me about going out with girls. Honestly, I'm tired, and my trust in you is broken. I'm not sure I even want to work on this marriage yet. Your actions make me think that you are no longer interested in this marriage. Therefore, I offer you 3 options. He raised a finger. Option 1. You leave this door and go to your asshole boyfriend. Even if you don't sleep together tonight, this choice will end our marriage. There's 0 chance that I'll want to save him. He raised a second finger. Option 2. We sit here together all night, and you try to convince me to work on staying married to you. It will be extremely difficult for you to sell everything because I am not inclined to trust a single word from your mouth. However, maybe you will succeed because I really love you and we have a child to think about. I can tell you that you have 50% that I will work to save him. He raised a third finger. Option 3. You take me with you this evening to visit your ladies' man. In front of me, you demand that he never talk or contact you again. Then you allow us to talk to him for at least 15 minutes out of earshot. This choice will give you the most respect and will maximize my desire to work with us. If you didn't sleep with him and you didn't have any sex with him, I promise I will 100% do everything to make this relationship work. Also note, if you slept with him or had sex of some other kind, this is the only option that can allow us to work. She looked like she was about to throw up and looked at him with what could be called horror. 0, 50, or 100, Sharon. Which will you choose? The question hung in the air for almost a minute. It looked like my wife was trying to stop herself from vomiting when she looked at me. "Bob, I'm so sorry about everything and I desperately need to talk to you. In answer to your question, who will lead? You or me?" Well, that was unexpected. I really didn't think she would choose our meeting with her lover. I thought it was almost certain that she would sit here all night trying to justify her behavior. Arranging my meeting with her asshole actually won her some points, but she was still in the red. I took the keys and followed her to the car. Out of habit, I opened the door for her, and she almost cried. As I pulled out of the road, she looked at me. "I really ruined everything for us, didn't I?" she asked quietly. "Yes, Sharon, you really did," I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. "What can I do to fix this?" she asked. I thought a little. I had a couple of scenarios that I formulated. Well, first of all, from now on, complete honesty. I shouldn't have said this, but apparently, you think it's okay not to mention something I should know or to lie to me over and over again. Along with this, you need to find a way to make me believe what you say. I don't know how you plan to do this, but honestly, I wasn't the one who broke our trust. One more thing that I didn't think needed to be mentioned, but I'll say it anyway. He's dead to you. If we stay together, you won't talk to him while you work. You don't ask him how his day is going. If he shows up at the bar you're at, you leave. If you can't leave, call me immediately. You don't accept drinks or gifts from him, no matter what he says. He receives no communication from you. Next thing? When we get back tonight, you'll tell me everything. I don't even want to hear what you think. I realize I was consumed by this project, so I'll take some of the blame. If you have a grudge against me, let me know. And the last thing for now. Schedule time for marriage counseling. If you want to choose a consultant yourself, do not hesitate to do so. Perhaps Ron can suggest someone. However, this depends on certain information. When I finished speaking, her phone beeped that she had a message. She looked down and became even paler. "It's him, wondering where I am," she said quietly. I extended my hand and she handed me the phone without a word. I scrolled back through her text messages. There were a couple of today's ones from an earlier time. Him. "Hey, I booked a room with a jacuzzi. Maybe we can relax after lunch, bring your bikini." Go. Her. "You can't get me drunk enough to take a hot bath with you. I won't take the bikini." Him. "We'll see. You know what happens when you drink. Maybe you don't need a bikini." And then just now, him. "Where are you?" "While waiting for you, I took a glass of wine." I wrote back. "I'm a little late. I have a surprise for you." Him. "Oh, you brought your bikini. Great." I returned the phone to my wife. She read the texts and simply lowered her head. "You know, he doesn't help in your case, right? Just the texts from today make it seem like you're going to hook up with him tonight. How bad will it look if I scroll further?" I said. Of course, I knew exactly how bad it looked. "I guess I should ask, do you think your text messages today are inappropriate flirting? Do you see how these exchanges have killed all my trust in you?" I heard her sobs. "Bob, I swear, I only planned to have dinner tonight. I never planned to sleep with him." I couldn't help but look at her like she was an idiot. "Were you planning on giving him your panties after you took them off, and then you ran into him a few weeks ago?" I didn't think she could turn any paler, and he turned out to be wrong. "Sharon, we're almost there. You should probably do something about your makeup and think about what you're going to tell Luke. Oh, and don't drink wine." She pulled down the window visor and took a napkin from the glove compartment. She began to pull herself together and stopped crying. As she began to apply mascara, she asked in a more normal tone, "Bob, I understand why you think Luke was playing with me. Hearing you talk about it, I think it's true. But Bob, how could I not see this? I know my recent decisions don't show it, but I'm not a stupid little girl. I've fought off more attractive and sophisticated guys than Luke. So why did he reach out to me? This is now one of the reasons why I find it difficult to believe what you say, Sharon. You are a beautiful, smart woman who should see this shit for what it is. That's why I have to wonder, did you do it willingly?" I answered. "Ugh. Imagine that I picked up a slut at a bar with this guy and lied to you that I was going to dinner with him tonight. No wonder you're so angry and hurt." Her color seemed to be returning, and her voice became a little stronger. "Okay, I screwed up, and now I have to find a way to fix it. Thank you for giving me a chance." She reached out to kiss me, but at the last minute I turned my head and allowed her to peck me on the cheek. I still haven't moved on, not in the long term. She looked at me almost in shock. "We're usually very affectionate. Hopefully, we can get back to that." "What do you want me to tell him?" she asked as we pulled into the restaurant parking lot. I found a parking spot and turned off the engine after coming to a complete stop. I looked at her and let my anger bubble up. "What do I want you to say? Sharon, our relationship is barely alive because of your actions with that damn face. You two have destroyed the central pillar of our marriage. Our daughter could spend Thanksgiving with you and Christmas with me. I want to make this clear, so tell him whatever the hell you want." She sat quietly for a minute, then sighed and opened the car door. As we approached the restaurant part of the hotel, she took a step as if trying to grab my hand. I didn't pull away, but I didn't welcome her touch either. We entered. There was a pretty red-haired girl standing behind the small kiosk. "Welcome to T-Jiff. There are two of you?" she asked. I was about to answer when my wife spoke. "We have to meet someone here." "He's already here," she said very matter-of-factly. "Oh, okay. Feel free to look around," the head waitress replied. I didn't know what this guy looked like, so I left the initiative to my wife. She nudged me lightly with her elbow and nodded toward the back of the restaurant. There, next to the door to the hotel, sat a man. It looked like he was doing something with his phone. She walked towards the table with a decisive step and stopped without bothering to sit down. He looked up, saw her, and smiled widely. It took him a second to realize that there was a guy behind her. When he noticed me, his smile disappeared and his eyes narrowed slightly. "Luke, this is my husband, Robert Morgan. He is concerned about our relationship, and after talking with him, I have to agree with this. For the first time in our marriage, I gave my husband reason to doubt his fidelity. I will work hard to repair the breach of trust caused by my relationship with you. From now on, I don't want to have anything to do with you. There is no reason for you to call me, text me, or otherwise try to communicate with me. I own my part in getting our relationship to this point. Now I've decided to end it. My husband knows about my reprehensible actions at the Red Horse Bar. I will do everything in my power to save my relationship with my husband, including informing HR of the entire situation tomorrow. I will tell them that any attempt to talk to me about anything not directly related to our work will be considered unwanted attention. Now, I'll sit at the bar while my husband talks to you." When she turned away, she kissed me right before I could react. She looked into my eyes for a second and whispered, "I'm really sorry." I couldn't help but look at her ass as she walked up to the bar. Everything turned out even better than I expected. As I slipped into the office opposite the embarrassed playboy, I couldn't help but try to size him up. Dark hair, slim build, and dressed to perfection. I think he would be considered attractive, but I've never been good at looking at guys. He was probably about the same height as me, although it was hard to tell because he was sitting. I couldn't help but notice that he continued to look at the glass of wine that was sitting on the table opposite him. This almost confirmed my suspicions. It's time to play it cool. I knew roughly what I wanted, but I had to figure things out as I went along. Thinking on my feet was not my strong suit. "And then you thought it would be a surprise that she was in a bikini," I said with a half smile. "Do you really think she told you everything?" he replied with a grin. Now that this idiot was in front of me, I felt calm. This was a problem I could handle. "Actually, yes. I've known this woman for 10 years, and I've been married to her for 8. I think I understand her better than some cute boy who has been chasing her for 3 months. I kept a smile on my face. The waiter came over and asked me to order a drink. I ordered a double Johnny Walker Black with ice. "She knows how to please a man very well," he said, still trying to grin. He glanced at the glass of wine he had already ordered for her. "Yes, it's true. This time I smiled broadly at him. But I don't think you're speaking from experience. Do you need photographs? He asked, laughing hard. This guy was trying to piss me off. I felt like I had to reach across the counter for it, but I ended up laughing. You don't have photographs. If she'd gone that far with you, you wouldn't have to put something in her drink. What are jabbering rapists using these days? Gamma-hydroxybutyrate, rohypnol, or just good old ecstasy? It was my guess, but his shocked look killed all doubts. He recoiled as I leaned across the table towards him. Now, I was really angry. You son of a bitch! I should beat the crap out of you right here and now. But I'm not sure I won't kill you. I don't want to go to jail right now. I gave my wife 3 options, and now I'm giving you 3 options. I stuck my finger under his nose. First, you are leaving. Now you go and apologize to my wife, and tomorrow you quit your job. I promise not to stalk you. Then you will leave the city. I raised another finger. Second, you go to the police and admit that you put something in my wife's drink. Serve your sentence and leave my wife alone. I will watch you, but I will not come for you. Then you will leave the city. I raised a third finger. Third, I signed both of us up for boxing classes. In 4 weeks, you and I will step into the ring, sign injury waivers, and neither of us will leave until we pass out. And when you wake up, you still leave my wife alone. Then you will leave the city. The waiter brought my scotch just as I finished. I took a long gulp and assessed the burn. It's time to return to calm. You must think I'm an idiot. Why would I agree to any of these options? He grinned. I gave him what I hoped was a menacing grin. Because you don't want to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your miserable life. Every time you walk to your car in the dark, you wonder if I or one of my friends is waiting with a baseball bat to smash your knees and hit your genitals. Every time you go to answer the door at home, you won't know if I or one of my friends is going to jump in and tie you to a chair to cut off your reproductive organs. Every time you go to a bar, you don't know if I or one of my buddies is going to put something in your drink and do some backroom lovemaking and then trample on your reproductive organs. You won't do this. You're a teddy bear, or so your wife said after I finished having sex with her last night. His face took on some color again. I took another sip of whiskey, then reached into my pocket and pressed the button that launched the voice recorder function on my phone. I hope he writes down the next few sentences of the dialogue. I really should have planned this better. Tonight you were going to drug my wife and rape her, you bastard. Are you willing to bet a lifetime of pain and suffering on me not doing exactly what I said? It was time to fish. The drugs were only to get her in the mood for when I brought my friends. We were going to have sex with her tonight all together. My cool has evaporated. I was able to grab him by the collar with my left hand and pull him towards me. I couldn't hit too hard with my right hand because I was sitting, but heard a satisfying crunch and felt his nose give in. Bastard! I'll call the police, he shouted, holding his nose. Come on, donkey. I'd like them to drug test the remaining wine in this glass and then listen to the tape of you admitting to it, I shouted. Police investigated the disturbance for 10 minutes. Apparently, 2 patrolmen were having lunch at the subway across the street. They accepted my application and packaged the remaining wine and glass for analysis. They searched Luke and found a packet of white powder. He asked for a lawyer and refused to say anything more. They listened to my recording and took my mobile phone as evidence. It was difficult, but you can hear Luke talking about drugs and a planned gangbang. It was almost 4 in the morning before Sharon and I could leave the police station. After she finished testifying, one of the police officers spent almost 15 minutes telling her what a great guy I was and how I saved her from a drug-induced rape. By the end of it all, she was completely broken. Luke remained in police custody. We were able to use her cell phone to quickly explain everything to my parents. They understood and promised to take care of Casey. They decided to take her to the zoo. She'll love it. When we pulled into the garage and turned off the car, we both just looked at each other. She unbuckled her seatbelt and hugged me across the console. I let her cry into my shoulder for about a minute, and then gently pushed her away. Sharon, we still need to talk, but it's late, and we should go to bed. Tomorrow we will both go to work and spend the day together to figure out how to move forward. How do you like the plan? Yes, Bob. The bed sounds wonderful. After which she asked in a quiet voice, Can I please sleep with you? Of course, baby. The next morning, I woke up and cuddled up to my woman. I thought about how we got to where we were last night and felt like everything might be okay. We still had a couple of conversations before I agreed to anything. My hand was on her stomach, and she brought it to her chest. I felt excited. I had to stop this. I wasn't ready yet. Getting into bed, I spanked one of those perfect butt cheeks. Get up and let's take a walk. I don't want to have a hard conversation on an empty stomach, I said. We ended up showering together, which didn't do much more than speed up our preparations, although with difficulty. I wasn't ready to be intimate until we cleared everything up. We had breakfast at the International House of Pancakes and talked about Casey and how she and my parents should have fun. We managed to keep everything nice and bright. After our last cup of coffee, we paid the bill and headed home. We sat down at the kitchen table and looked at each other. Okay, I think I'll start, I said. I think you can see now what a bad person Luke is, so I'm not going to whip this dead horse. He said that you satisfied his manhood well, and that you called me a teddy bear after having sex with him a few days ago. This is true? No. The worst thing I ever had with him was that terrible evening at the Red Horse. I understand how bad my actions were that evening, but I never went any further. She replied. How can you make me believe this? You lied about going on a date with him last night, and you lied and omitted about that night at the bar and your entire relationship with him. I felt like it was time to lay all my cards on the table. I've been racking my brain trying to figure this out, and I think I have something. What about polymer dough? She asked. Polymer test? Did she mean polygraph? I had to smile a little. Do you mean a polygraph test? Lie detector test? She nodded. Yes, make an appointment and ask me any questions you want. Just tell me the time and place. The sincere expression on her face was so amazing. I know these tests are not 100% accurate, but I would feel a lot better if she went ahead and told the truth. I'll see what I can do. It may take some time to prepare, but it's a good idea, actually, longer than I thought, I replied. She smiled. Okay, that's a good start, and we'll look again at the scope of your affair later. I think my next question will be the most difficult. This is what hurts me the most, and also what has the biggest impact on our relationship. How do we move on? You were embarrassed and didn't tell me about the panty incident. I can understand that. I don't like it, but I can understand. It's hard for me to deal with the fact that you got very close to another guy without telling me. But if you thought it was just a coworker friendship, I can understand that. What I can't understand, and what makes me want to just leave before I get hurt again, is when you said you were seeing girls when you were actually going to meet him for dinner. 100% outright lie. Forget the consequences, but you broke my heart when you said you were dating girls. I know there were tears in my eyes, but I couldn't do anything about it. Bob, all I can do is tell you what I was thinking at the time. First, let me say that I am so sorry that I lied to you about everything. When you took on this project, for the first time since we were together, I felt like I was in second place. I am not blaming you or your work. I know why you took it and why it was so important to you. I'm just saying how I felt. I started to feel depressed, and then Sister Vicky said something that I couldn't get out of my head. She suggested looking for romance somewhere on the side. I never thought that meant I was cheating on you. I realized that while you were busy with this project, it would be a good idea to find what I needed somewhere else. And then Luke appeared. I didn't fully realize it, but he fulfilled my desire to be special. He asked me about my day. He asked me about my baby and family. We talked about hobbies that I thought were cool. Mostly when we talked, it was about me. She sighed and studied my face for my reaction. I don't think she saw anything. When Vicky lectured me on what it looked like at lunchtime, I realized what I was doing. I used Luke to get what I felt I couldn't get from you. And to be honest, I calmed down. At the time, I thought he was just a friend, but I wanted to work things out with you. The night things went crazy. I didn't invite him or his friends. I got there early and they showed up before the rest of the girls. Luke bought drinks for everyone, including me. I ended up drunker than I had been since we'd been together. I've done some stupid and shameful things that you know about. But then we had some beautiful, mind-blowing sex, and it confused me even more. How can I be such a slut there, without you? And then, damn it, so wonderful with you." She stood up and poured a glass of water. After drinking half of it, she sat back and continued. "Then this video appeared. I knew you'd be angry about what I did, and rightfully so. If you get drunk and kiss another woman on the dance floor, I will rip off your reproductive organs. I even knew that it would be even worse because, after such hot sex that we had, you will ask if I was thinking about something or someone else. So I made another of my many mistakes. I tried to use my friend, Luke, to help cover it up, and perhaps he did it, and then made sure I knew about it. So I had to do my friend a favor, and he wanted to take me out to dinner that night, when my regular girlfriends couldn't go. I was still lonely because I thought you wouldn't be home until late, so in a moment of stupidity, I screwed up, and I'm so sorry. Our relationship has always been based on trust in each other. I screwed up." Tears streamed down her face, although she didn't cry. "Oh my gosh." I stood up and hugged her. I kissed her for a long time. Pulling away, I had to say something. "We're not there yet, and it will take some time. But if you're 100% involved, so am I." Sharon and I went to counseling for a while. Talking about my problems helped me overcome them. The big result for me was that since communication has been a strength since our first meeting, we are still working on it. The consultant also suggested Sharon get tested for hormonal imbalances. At 31, it was too early to worry about this, but it turned out to be not in vain, and after several tests and a change in birth control pills, she felt better. Unfortunately, I can't say we're back to where we were, but we're back to good things. The lie detector test showed that she was honest in all the difficult questions I asked. As for the little nagging in my head about the veracity of these tests, I can live with that. I actually signed up for boxing lessons. And Sharon became interested in the self-defense classes taught there, and Thursdays for girls turned into self-defense evenings. Sharon decided to sign us up for martial arts classes. She is a gem, and I have a hard time holding my own against her. Sparing is the best foreplay we've discovered. The project was completed 6 weeks ahead of Schedule A and under budget. My company is now playing with the big boys when it comes to government contracts. They tried to move me to the position of vice president, but I refused because it required too much travel. Instead, I founded the Special Projects Department and now head it. He appeared along with a new office and a secretary assistant. My new assistant has the most beautiful ass and a megawatt smile. She also satisfies me perfectly. So far, no one has complained about my wife and I working together. As long as we bring in money, I don't think anyone will do this. Most of the 38,000 Poinazauri bonus for my original project went towards a college fund for Casey. However, I had saved enough for an all-inclusive resort week with my wife. My parents are ready to return my daughter when we return home. I got an assault charge for hitting the shit. This is the best $300 and 40 hours of community service I've ever done. Luke will get 3 to 5 years for attempted rape and possession of a controlled substance. The white powder was gamma-hydroxybutyrate. He also got the crap kicked out of him while walking to his car in the evening. No, it wasn't me. Apparently, Luke had already pulled the date rape stunt, and one of his victim's brothers caught up with him. The guy will get 2 to 3 years for the attack. I deposit $50 a month into his account at the prison commissary. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.